Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Jason with Rockhounding Life here. It's that time of year. It's 2024 Makers Challenge. Very excited to be invited again by Theo this year. Always have fun doing these projects. If you remember, in 2021 we did the glow ring out of Montana rocks. In 2022 we did the piece of sea maggot cake with different types of sea maggot here from Nova Scotia. And then in 2023 last year we did the meteorite spinning pendant. So try to go outside the box every time, do stuff we don't normally do on the channel here. So this year's no different. Plan on doing something a little different this year that we haven't done on the channel before. So let's dive into the bench and take a closer look at what we're doing today. Okay, so for our 2024 Makers Challenge project, we are making a epoxy nightlight out of Rainbow Fluorite. The reason I chose Rainbow Fluorite is because when cut thin, as you see, it's very translucent, and it really has awesome colors when backlit. You see the purples. There's different shades of purple, indigo, deep purple. There's also shades of blue and green, and there's also just white fluorite in there, lime green. So yeah, really nice colors, and I think in the pitch dark this will look really nice. I even think it would cast the colors onto the wall, I'm hoping, like in a dark room. I'm going to make this for my daughter's room. She kind of likes things like this, and yeah, I'm going to make this nightlight for her. Right now I have 4 slabs. So I got this material from Highland Park, the Highland Park Lapidary Company. Bought a big chunk, probably like a 3-pound chunk of it. I've got 4 slabs off it so far. I need 6, so I'm going to make a 6-sided cube of fluorite. This is the remaining chunk I have. I'm going to use my high-tech diamond 10-inch slab saw to cut this because it's very soft material. I mean, fluorite has a hardness, I think, of around 3 or 4, so it's pretty soft material. Cuts real easy. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to use epoxy, a deep pour epoxy. I've never used deep pour epoxy on the channel before. I've got this resin mold here. It's a cube mold, and I'm going to make, like I said, a 6-sided cube. It's going to be probably 1 centimeter in off each side, so it's going to look like it's floating in there. The light that I'm going to use is just this wire mesh strobe light. It's kind of like you can do different settings with it, but the thing is, it's very wiry and bendable, so I can kind of ball it up into a ball, or so I'll be able to get it into the pocket of the cube. And it also has different settings, different brightnesses, so I thought this would be a really cool light to put. Plus it's got a nice long string, so I can have it come off of out of the cube, no problem. And this is the control box and the battery box. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to get into the intricacies of how I'm going to do the cube. After I cut the remaining slabs, I'll come back and I'll tell you how I'm going to do that. I'll get the squares cut out of the slabs once I have all the slabs, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how we assemble the cube.
So one of the most common comments we get on the channel are related to lapidary safety when cutting. I just want to reassure everyone, these blades do not cut, they grind. It cannot hurt my fingers. Even if my finger were to slip right now and touch that blade, it would not hurt my finger. I've shown videos where I actually touch the blade with my finger. It's totally safe. I understand the perception that people have, but trust me, these are completely safe tools to use.
Okay, we were able to get 6 slabs, and this is the smallest one. This is the outline I'm going to use. This is a Rubik's Cube from my son's room, Travis's room. I'm picking this as my outline for my cube because it fits pretty much exactly how I want it, the tolerances to be on the outside, about 1 centimeter. So this is perfect shape to kind of fit in my mold. So I'm going to use this to trace the outlines for my cube. Some of this material is fractured. The reason why I'm okay with that is because when I epoxy it, that deep pour epoxy will heal any fractures that are in this. So I'm okay with, it cracking and then putting it back together, because you pretty much won't see it in the final product. That epoxy will get in there and heal those fractures. So fluorite has imperfect cleavage. It's going to be very difficult to cut all these in a perfect square pattern, just because of how it fractures. So, but we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to use my Cab King 6-inch trim saw. I'm going to stencil these up right now and then take them over and cut them.
So, funny story, this was my son Travis's favorite Rubik's Cube, which I didn't know, and as I was tracing, I got marker on the bottom of the cube, So now I owe him a new Rubik's Cube.
Okay, so as you can see, I cut all 6 sides of the cube. Now, what I have are some kind of irregular shapes. They're not perfect squares. So what I have to do is I have to take it over to my 8-inch flat lap, my High-Tech Diamond 8-inch flat lap, and I'm going to smooth the edges, make them flat, make them flush to the line that I drew. I actually did have a corner break off here, which I have glued back on, and I need to be very careful now in the process of grinding that I don't damage that corner any further. But as I said earlier, I'm not too worried about that. When I pour the deep epoxy, it should hide that defect. So anyway, it is what it is at this point, but I'm happy with what we have so far. Is it going to be a perfect cube? We'll see. I'm going to do my best, but I think we're going to get it to the point where it's going to look pretty good. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to take the High-Tech Diamond 8-inch flat lap, low speed, high grit. I don't want to damage this because it's so soft. So here we go.
The slab saw that I used earlier and this flat lap that I'm using now are made by High-Tech Diamond. We are an affiliate with High-Tech Diamond. If you're interested in getting into the lapidary arts, I highly recommend High-Tech Diamond. They're great for beginners coming into the hobby. The price point is good and the equipment is easy to use. You can use our affiliate link, which is in the description below, to visit their website and use the code RHLife at checkout, and that will give you 10% off all accessories, including saw blades, grinding discs like you see here, and other accessories. We've been using High-Tech Diamond equipment now for over 3 years, and I have no complaints, and our equipment is going strong. Good quality, great price.
Okay, so I've finished grinding those and shaping them up flush to the lines, and they're better squares now. So the next part of this project is the most difficult. So basically what I have to do is I don't want to piece together the pieces like this and have these really uneven breaks on the pieces. I don't want to build the cube this way. I want to build it so that the cube looks like basically one piece. And how I'm going to do that, if you can envision, I don't want to make it stack on top of each other like this. Okay. Instead, what I want to do is I want to create a 45-degree angle on the edges. So basically how it's going to work is I'm going to create an angle. I'm going to grind away an angle on each edge, and it's going to fit together this way. So that's how I want to do it. So I'm going to have to grind down the edges of each piece 45 degrees. So that's the tricky part now, is to kind of making this cube puzzle piece fit together. I'm going to do this on my High-Tech Diamond 10-inch flat lap again. I'm going to take each piece back over. It's going to be like a trial and error thing. This is the part of the project that was worrying me the most. But we're going to go ahead and tackle it now, see how we do, and yeah, show the progress along the way. Okay, I've got all 6 sides of the cube to where I'm happy with the angles. How I'm going to construct the cube, I'm going to use some lapidary CA, just some medium CA, and then I'm going to use some accelerator to make the bond adhere faster so that I don't have to sit here and hold it forever. And that's the plan. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. It's going to be a trial and error process, but I think it's going to work out. Wish me luck.
So when I was coming up with concepts for this cube, I originally wanted to make a Tesseract cube. A Tesseract cube is a cube within a cube, and this inner cube is scaled to the outer cube in such a way that when you rotate it, it gives off this cool 3D effect. Some describe it as a 4D cube, but it's truly just a 3D cube that has an illusion effect. When you rotate it, it looks like it's kind of expanding on itself. So that was my plan at the beginning, but then I quickly realized that In order to do that and get that effect, I had to have a big epoxy cube with a smaller box inside, and the dimensions just didn't work out for this project. I didn't want to make the box that was inside too small so that it couldn't house a proper light. So it's not a true Tesseract in the sense. It is going to be a cube within a cube, but it kind of looks cool at the end, and you'll see, it kind of looks like the Tesseract from the Marvel movies.
Okay, here's our final cube. Pretty happy with how it turned out. It's not perfect. There are some gaps, but it turned out pretty much how I envisioned for the most part. So there's our compartment where we're going to put our light. And we've got a nice solid cube that is not overlapping as far as edges. So the edges seem nice and clean on every side. So that's what I wanted. The lid's got a little bit of a gap on it. Now I wanted to leave, I was going to cut out a hole for the light wire to come out of the box, but because it's a little uneven on this side right here, there's a hole right here in the corner, so I'm going to be able to put the wire up through here, so it kind of works out. But yeah, that's how it's going to look. It's going to be a nice cube box, and then we're going to stick that into our resin mold and then pour our resin. So that's the next step. This is my next worrisome step, is the resin pour, because if I don't get it right the first time, the resin doesn't look good, then obviously it's a bust. So I got to get it right the first time. It's not going to be one single pour. I'm going to do multiple pours. First thing I'll be doing is pouring the base. So I'll be pouring like to this level right here, probably a centimeter, and that's the cube's gonna sit on that, and then I'll pour the rest. So I'm gonna take this in the house now to do the resin pouring, just because I want to do it. I'm in the garage and it's room temperature in here because I have my heater going, but to sit overnight I want it to be in the house to cure, so I'm gonna do it upstairs. So I'll be right back. Okay, so here's my epoxy. It's a two-part epoxy, equal parts. It's hardener and the epoxy. Mix it together. I've got 3 cups. I'm going to mix part A in this cup, part B in this cup, and then I'm going to mix it into this cup. And then mix it up, stir it up. There's going to be a lot of bubbles in it, so I'm going to use this resin degasser. This is a good little first trial, because if I mess up on just doing this little first pour, that's just the first base, I can always start over, because I don't have the fluorite cube in there yet. So if I don't like the pour, then I can always go back. But hopefully we'll get it on the first try. So here we go.
Just a couple of tips when you're working with epoxy. Number one, you want to work with it at room temperature. I learned this the hard way. I had some stuff stored in my garage, and when I went to mix it, it actually forms crystals when you mix it, and it's really hard to get out. It doesn't form a clear epoxy. If you're working with pigments, it's okay, but if you're really trying to work with clear stuff, it's really hard to get those ice crystals out. The degassing process doesn't do it. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is, if you're going to store it, you have to be prepared for it to turn yellow. I find that if you store it even for like a month, your hardener will turn yellow, and that in turn will turn your epoxy mix yellow. So if you're looking for clear pours, you're going to get a yellow pour if you're storing it for any length amount of time. So best to go buy it and then use it within the week that you buy it, so that you get the clear pour that you're looking for. And lastly, if you're going to do multiple pours on your project, make sure you're using epoxy from the same bottle. You don't want to use different bottles of epoxy to make 2 different pours on the same project, because for the reasons I said, you're likely going to get discoloration on one of your pours because the hardener is different color. So use the same bottle within a couple days of each other.
Okay, so I've done the first pour, and it looks good, really clear. I'm going to let it cure overnight, and then we're going to come back and take a look at it in the morning.
Okay, I couldn't talk while I was actually pouring the second pour, because the cube in the center, as you can see I'm holding it, it kept rotating as I was pouring and it wasn't staying in place. So I wanted to get the epoxy poured quickly and then get the cube centered. I actually had to hold the cube in place for about 30 minutes while it kind of cured enough to where it wasn't going to move. Then I put the light in, and I put the epoxy in the center of the cube, which solidified the light in place, and then topped it off with a little more epoxy. Then I finally was going to glue the last piece of the cube, which was the back, onto the cube, so that finalizes the cube. And then I did the final pour, which was very satisfying, making sure I got no bubbles. However, I did pour it a little too fast, and some bubbles got in there, so I had to flash it off with a torch and got rid of those final bubbles. And would you believe it took me 20 minutes to get this resin mold off this cube? Super tough, but boy was the end result worth it.
Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby.
So that wraps up another Maker's Challenge project. I want to thank Theo for inviting us again this year. I always have fun doing these projects. It's a really big high when you can envision something in your head, be scared to make it, and then it comes out, you know, exactly how you thought it would. I'm very happy with this project, very happy with how this cube turned out, and my daughter's super stoked. She loves it, and it's going to go in her room. Please be sure to check out all the Maker's Challenge 5 videos for 2024. Lots of great videos so far. I've been excited watching all of them, seeing all the creations. It's unbelievable what people are capable of. If you're ever so inclined to try to make this yourself, you can watch this video as a tutorial, but I will also put the materials I used to make this cube on our Amazon storefront. So the link to that storefront is in our description. So check that out if you're ever interested in tackling something like this. You just need a tile saw and all the materials that I'm going to list there in the storefront. With that said, I hope everybody has a great Easter weekend, a safe Easter weekend, and we'll catch you in the next one.
You're chilling when the rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.